Hi guys, I'm excited to have Dawood Bedrosian today, who's a radio host in Orlando. He has his own talk show called Real Sense Now. He's a real estate investor and a real estate broker, but what I think is most interesting about him is that he actually has dual citizenship. He's Canadian born and raised in Canada. He's from Windsor. That we won't hold that against you. I know most of my listeners are Torontonians, but he's living and practicing real estate in Florida for the last decade. So he's very in tune with not only the GTA market, but with all things Florida. So today we're going to be speaking about what's going on in the real estate market there. So let's get started. Dawood, how are you doing today?
Thank you for having me as part of your show. It's an honor to be a part of your presentation here.
No, thank you for your time. So what's happening with Florida right now with the lockdowns and stuff? Here in Ontario, we're down to 50% capacity, but you guys have been open since like more than a year now, right?
What lockdown? What are you talking about?
Exactly.
We've only been in lockdown for the first, I would say, 6 weeks right after March last year. And everything's open. Our economy is booming. Our borders opened up on November 8th, which has allowed for a ton of people from all over the world to actually start to come. If you drive on the highways trying to get to any of the outlet malls, or if you're trying to get to any of the theme parks, guess what? You're in a traffic jam trying to get anywhere because we are literally hitting capacity at a lot of our amusement parks because we're getting an overflow of people that are obviously experiencing this pent up demand for wanting to travel and then been stuck where they've been at over the last, I would say, 18 months or so. And you're definitely getting in a lot of drive-in traffic from a lot of the neighboring states as well as other countries. I have a ton of Canadian clients that are coming to visit because for the first time ever, Florida is actually a cheaper offering than a lot of the properties that are available even in some of the cheapest places that you could have bought, such as Windsor, Ontario. So
Right.
definitely a lot more eyes coming down to look at, especially that Airbnb type of model that a lot of people want. A lot of Canadians always say, and this is going to be the last winter that they spend in Canada because they're tired of the cold weather. And of course, now if you look at an investment such as that, where you can take advantage of utilizing the property throughout the year for rental, and then using it at your leisure, you tend to get the best of both worlds. You get that ROI that everybody's looking for, which is that return on investment, and something else I like to call ROL, which is a return on lifestyle. So you can get to enjoy that lifestyle that you're looking for with you and your family to take advantage of an investment property right here in sunny Florida.
So, what effect has the pandemic had on real estate in Orlando? And let's just backtrack a little bit for people who aren't familiar with the location of Orlando within Florida. So, if you can maybe touch on that as well.
Yeah, so absolutely. So let's look at it from a bird's eye view and kind of understand what took place in our marketplace here. So of course, because we are a tourist-driven destination, one of the major concerns we all had locally in our market is were we going to get into a scenario where we would experience what we experienced in 2008, which is the market crashing well over 50%, and home values being lost, people without jobs maybe would run into a foreclosure type of scenario. But ironically, we experienced the opposite. On my radio show, I talk about this on a regular basis, and we talk about several things that have taken place. And one great factor that we noticed was due to the obvious fact, which is the political environment that certain states experience. And I'll use Florida as an example. Under the governance of DeSantis, the whole economy was open. Home rentals were allowed to be reoccupied, that's Airbnb properties, by June of 2020. The theme parks were open and were hitting capacity by noon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And what we started to see was what they called the great reshuffling that was taking place throughout the United States. You found many people that left major metropolitan hubs like New York, San Francisco, even Chicago to opt for more space and to take ownership of properties that they could enjoy. And these properties are different than what you would experience in a metro area. We're not talking about little condos that are 1,000, 1,200 square feet. We're talking about
people coming to live there, or people coming to rent, or what kind of shift did you guys see from New York?
so both. You definitely saw a big migration of people from a lot of the financial industries from New York, even a lot of tech industries from the San Francisco area come to relocate to places like Orlando, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, so that they could take advantage of that lifestyle, the water, the great weather,
And they can still
and of course
work
you're getting a
remotely in
lot.
their job. Mhm.
So yeah, exactly. So there are people that have relocated permanently. Other people looked at it as a second home, and they said, you know what? If I'm working from home, then I can work from anywhere. So
Yeah.
that shift started to happen while that migration, whether it was millennials now looking at other areas because they can work from home, which is the largest cohort of buyers in our demographic currently right now. And what happened was that demographic and that cohort started to compete with a baby boomer that now wanted to sell their home and downsize into something smaller. So not only did we have a lumber crisis with lumber prices going through the roof, but we had a shortage of inventory because the builders were not being able to compete and build to meet the demand that they were getting on the market. You had two different buying segments, which is the millennials competing with the baby boomers to look for the same entry level properties on the market. And then you had an influx of people moving in from the Northeast all the way even out from California and even Chicago looking at cheaper properties that were beautiful single family homes that are, a lot cheaper than what they could purchase back home anyways to take advantage of that. So what we found ourselves in was now a brand new seller's market
Right.
where we had multiple offers, just like in Toronto, limited inventory, and of course, prices going through the roof. We had experienced an increase of approximately 20% in appreciation year over year.
Wow, from 2020?
Yeah.
Wow, 20%. And what did Florida see before the pandemic?
So, our market had been growing anyways because there's a ton of people that want to relocate here. And, during the COVID period, we're experiencing 1,000 people relocating to Florida on a daily basis. A
Yeah.
1,000 people a day coming into our state. That only became even more accelerated with all the conditions that took place because at the end of the day, the ultimate question you have to ask yourself is this. If you have the ability to work from anywhere in the world, would you
Yeah.
work from where you're at? And what you find is the way that the climate is, let's call it the investment climate is in Florida. Florida, you have no state income tax, which means in
Right.
a Canadian version, you still pay federal taxes, but we don't have a provincial income tax for the people that are making income here, which is one of the main reasons why a lot of celebrities, musicians, actors, sports figures all claim Florida to be their primary residence to take advantage of this kind of tax shelter that's available here. You have a cheaper cost of living. You have over 21 million people that live in the state of Florida, making it one of the largest states to be in. And to put things
Wow.
in perspective, right, we literally have more than half of all of the population of Canada living in one state. So
Right.
within a 3 hour drive, you can pretty much go from Orlando to Miami. You can get from Orlando to Tampa, Florida in about an hour and 15 minutes. And within an hour, you can be on the beaches on the East Coast or the West Coast.
So it's pretty much centralized,
Yes,
is what you're
absolutely.
saying.
Absolutely.
Right. So let's talk about high demand, low supply. We're experiencing that at the highest level here in the GTA. And months of inventory is always an indicator that we look at. So it tells us what type of market we're in. Where would you say you guys stand for months of inventory in Orlando right now?
Yeah, so we're approximately at a month supply of inventory, and we're definitely starting to see a little bit more homes and listings that are coming onto the market. And I think there's several reasons for that. I think a lot of people that wanted to make a purchase did it before a school year. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of the people that started to feel more confident with, the number of vaccinations and opening their houses up to the public to come in and want to view the properties has changed as things have started to improve over here. Until recently, Florida and maybe even still, but until recently, Florida had the lowest numbers in the country with regards to, people being affected by COVID, and our COVID numbers were amongst the lowest in the country here. So it really created a really interesting climate with regards to, why more and more people would be coming. And of course, the obvious factor is that who wouldn't want to take advantage of selling their home at a peak price right now? A lot of people have decided to, wait it out, rent something in the meantime, and then simultaneously, a lot of the investors that are looking in the market, we've seen an increase in rent by 40%. So if you were to take into consideration, yeah, take into consideration renting a long-term one-bedroom condo for, let's say, $1,000, just for argument's sake. That same
Yeah.
condo 1 year later is now going at $1,400 versus what you would have experienced before.
Wow.
So you're definitely seeing a really positive shift here, which is attracting several types of investors and several groups of people from different places to want to come. There are investors that are wanting to take advantage of the rental market, whether it's long term or short term. There's a lot of people that want to take advantage of the short term vacation rental market for personal use, as well as for leveraging the fact that there's more and more tourists that are coming. The occupancy levels, as of March 2021, hit approximately 86 to 99% occupancy for these properties. And a lot of these homes are literally being booked out throughout the calendar month for months on end.
Wow. So just for everyone who's listening, just to explain what months of inventory means, when you're at 0 to 3 months of inventory, we deem that as a seller's market. 3.5 to 5.5 months of inventory is what we call a balanced market. And then 5.5, 6 months of inventory and up is what we call a buyer's market. So when Dawood's talking about 1 month of inventory, you're saying essentially, like that literally means that if no new properties hit the MLS or hit the market, how long will it take for the current inventory to basically sell out? So when I hear 1 month, essentially 4 weeks, that's pretty scary because you guys know what's going to happen to values. It's simple supply and demand. Too many people wanting properties, not enough listings, so it's going to drive up values. So really want to explain like how little 1 month of supply actually means, because a lot of people don't understand that.
And I think what's interesting to not only explain what a shortage of inventory causes for a real estate playing field for an investor looking to buy, especially in the case of a lot of Canadians, as well as a lot of sellers looking to sell here. I think to understand it from both sides of the perspective is really interesting and unique. Now, a lot of people who are on the buy side may say, hey, you know what? Maybe I should wait it out because maybe now the pricing is too high and I shouldn't buy. And my answer to that is you're absolutely wrong. You should actually take advantage of buying it right now. Because in spite of the prices going up by 20%, you're still anticipating another 5% appreciation in the upcoming year. And that could also change with a number of other factors that may take place right now, such as, for example, a lot of international buyers wanting to invest in a short-term vacation rental side because they're beginning to understand the value of people wanting to travel. And that segment is definitely going up in value at a much faster pace than before because the borders are open and now more and more people can come and look, touch, and see the properties that they're looking to want to buy, as an example.
And it's one of the few vacation spots that people can actually still go to and not be limited in any sense.
Sarah, look at it this way. In 2019, we had 78 million tourists that came to visit Orlando, Florida alone. So let me put things in perspective for your listeners. 78 million people coming to visit one city is more than double the population of all of Canada coming to visit one place. So I think I say this all the time. You're pretty much a bad parent if you don't send your kid to Disney or bring your kid to Disney. They can have that experience, right? So whether you're coming for a convention, we have the second largest convention center in the United States, or you're coming on holiday, or you're coming to a theme park, or you're simply coming in for business, you're definitely stopping by here because it's one of the most visited destinations in the world. Orlando was ranked the number one visited city on July 4th weekend. Every weekend since, we've been really busy because more and more people are comfortable to start to travel. And of course, the way we travel changed now. I think as a result of the pandemic and culturally even, we're now more open to looking at websites such as an Airbnb, a VRBO, to see what other accommodation is available to us other than just simply renting a hotel room. Now, with that being the case, one of the things that we like to consider is okay, if we can rent a home, then the theory holds true, which is the greater number of beds equals the greater number of heads. So if you're an
Mhm.
investor in a short-term Airbnb model, essentially you want to try and find the biggest place possible so that you can have more people stay at your home and generate more nightly revenue. So as a result of that, in our market, we've seen, townhouses that are 6 bedrooms. We have single family homes that are upwards of 12 and 14 bedrooms, and they come
What?
with, yeah, with
Oh.
private swimming pools, and you can have a chef come to the house, and there's all kinds of concierge services that a lot of these resorts, um, allow for their guests to experience, so that they can have a memorable experience as well, too, along with shuttles to the theme parks and so on and so forth. So the
So would
whole
you say that those are the types of properties that are most popular right now in the Orlando landscape?
Yeah, so I mean, it seems like every new community comes out, they always try to one up the last one. So now it's not uncommon to see, like you do on a cruise ship, the simulated surfing experiences that you have as part of the water park features. A water park with slides for the kids, a splash pool with all kinds of, water fountains for the kids to run in at, lazy boy rivers that go all throughout the pool areas,
In
bars and cabanas
actually,
in
they have
actual.
this.
So the offerings are even more luxurious than even some of the best hotels that are out there as well too. They have restaurants and bars. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to create this great experience, because every time a family goes out to a theme park, they're spending, over 110, $20 a person. And
Yeah.
if you're an average sized family that's visiting the Orlando area, they're not traveling just their immediate nuclear family, which is 4 or 5 people. They're usually often bringing a brother, sister, best friend, mother, father along on the ride. And now you're up to between 8 to over 10 people staying under one roof. So instead of going out and renting out multiple hotel rooms, why not take advantage of staying in one beautiful house that has game rooms and a private swimming pool? You can save on a lot of the expenses by cooking your meals at home, or you can offset some of the days that you would have gone to a theme park by simply using the pools at the clubhouses and all the other amenities that they have, the gym facilities, the saunas, even in some cases they have spas and stuff like that too. So you have it all at your fingertips.
And what are we looking at in terms of like average price points? Like you're talking about like a 6 bedroom home here. What are people looking at?
So I'll give you a perfect example. In my community, we have 3, 4, 5, and 6 bedrooms at the Azure Resort, and our 3 bedrooms start at 339. Yes, I said 339 for a 3 bedroom with a jacuzzi in the backyard, and we're talking about a 1,600 square feet townhome. You have 4 bedrooms that are 1,900 square feet, 5 bedrooms that are just over 2,000 square feet, and those range in the low 400s, around 420 or 440. And those come with a private swimming pool that you have right in your back patio area. And a 6 bedroom with a pool and a water view is 529. So, I mean, in comparison to what you can get for 500 in downtown Toronto, you could pretty
Oh,
much
like
get it cheap.
absolutely nothing right
Yeah,
now.
I know. So that's
What?
why a lot of people are now even considering Florida as an alternative to expanding their portfolio because of the price points that are there. You know, Uh, I'm
Yeah.
blessed to
And
share
what's
that during this winter holiday, we we probably had on an average 2 to 3 Canadian clients come to visit on a weekly basis, looking for investment in the Florida area because it's a lot cheaper than what you could potentially get anywhere in Ontario.
and what sort of rental income are we looking at? Like, does the rental income cover the expenses, or like in Toronto, we usually like banking on capital appreciation. The cash flow is not there. So is that the same
Yeah,
case in
so you'll
Florida?
definitely find cash flow depending on what type of properties that you're looking for, and that's what makes these properties really attractive. In
Mhm.
many cases, the average Canadian is looking at an investment like this and literally saying to themselves, "Look, if the property is costing me my down payment, and I'm able to simply come whenever I want, and have the expenses cover itself, I'm happy. I don't want anything else. But in many cases, if you open your calendar, you throughout the whole year, you'll still have access to use the property as much as you want or as little as you want, depending on your personal usage. And you'll still be able to generate, in many cases, based on a lot of the case studies, a lot of our Canadian agents that have prepared for their clients have seen, cash on cash returns that, have been over 8, 10, 15%, depending on how often you use it. And the rates are going to vary based on the busiest times of the year. So if you think about it based on a school year, look at it from this perspective. The slowest times of the year are going to be August and September, because that's when the kids go back to school in August in the US and in September in Canada. And then the other slower time of the year will be January, which is also when the school calendar comes back in. But then when you start to look at the peak times of the year, which is when you're going to generate the highest levels of rent, you're going to be looking at Easter, Thanksgiving, Canadian Thanksgiving, Halloween, Christmas, summer holidays. And then if you're working with the right property management company, they're going to look to fill a lot of this downtime by varying the quality or the type of guest that would be staying at your property, by not focusing on just simply families, but maybe now focusing on sporting groups, cheerleading meets, volleyball tournaments, golf tournaments, or even for the adults, you have a group of guys that want to come down on a golf trip. And if you
Yeah.
look at the area that we're in, it's purely zoned and dedicated for short-term rental, which means
Okay.
within about a 10-minute drive, you can literally be at over 15 golf courses, many of which are championship level golf courses to play at.
So it's pretty much Airbnb is the way that people go there, because in Toronto here, everyone's pretty much doing like the 1 year lease. There's no appetite for that there. So everybody's doing short-term rental.
Well, I
So
mean, it's funny when the
watching,
market crashed. Sorry,
yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
People watching, I mean, it sounds great, 450,000, but the first thing that they're thinking is, I'm sitting here in Toronto. How do I find a renter? They're used to 1 year leases here when they invest more than the Airbnb model. So is there somebody out there who's looking after these, and how does that whole aspect of it work?
Yes, it's really simple. I just want to backtrack a little bit. When the market crashed in 2008, the firm that I was with, we ended up coming to Canada because it was natural for us. My sisters live in Toronto, my family lives in Windsor, and based on the great relationships that we've had with a lot of the real estate agents that we've worked with over time, it just seemed logical to just come back to Canada. Canada wasn't as affected or hardly affected at all by what happened down here. And they were the first to actually want to come and take advantage of wanting to invest in Florida, because they all have a dream and an aspiration to come down. But except at that point in time, the only available investments that made sense were what you're just mentioning right now, which is long term annual leases in a place that was gated, had great amenities, and they were able to buy the properties at the time for just under 100 grand up to about $150,000. Seemed to be the sweet spot. And a lot of the Canadians would come and purchase these properties cash. They'd use, the equity that they built in their home and use a HELOC. And at the time, the interest rate was, high ones, low twos. So, if they were generating 8, 10% return, cash on cash, on an annual thing, it would essentially be a free property. They would literally go out and buy a property and cover the debt service that they had and still make 6 to 8% on top of that. But then as financing started to open up here through banks like TD USA and RBC USA, you started to see more and more Canadians that were able to qualify for a loan, put as little as 20, 25% down, and go through the whole process and now be able to go out and purchase an even more luxurious home that they could use for other benefits as well, such as, for example, Airbnb. So as a result of that, to directly answer your question, of course, you can contact me. I'll be more than happy to assist with any of your clients or listeners in terms of how to go through the process from A to Z. You see, a lot of Canadians have a lot of misconceptions on whether or not they can even buy property down here, how to go about doing it. And what we've done is we've created a turnkey, headache-free process That includes everything from arranging for property management, setting up a trust with an attorney, title, maintenance, and then accounting, how to set you up with a ITIN, which is an individual tax identification number, so that you're paying your taxes, correctly, and you're not getting double taxed like a lot of people feel that they are by being a Canadian. And we can help answer a lot of these questions and really streamline the process so that when you are in Canada, you don't have to worry if the tenant is having a problem with their light bulb, or if something's not working, or if they're having an issue with a booking or somebody coming to stay.
So here in Toronto, if a foreign national is buying property, you have the foreign buyer's tax, which is 15%. What are some of the tax implications for Canadians when they're buying Orlando real estate?
So there's a couple of things, and I think with this we should be able to broad stroke and more importantly cover a lot of the tax concerns that a lot of Canadians have. So first and foremost, you're definitely going to be paying income tax on the income that you generate. However, you also have expenses. So you can, through your expenses, end up obviously writing off a lot of the profit that's generated, and you will end up having to pay the taxes on your bottom number. So that's first and foremost. When you are looking to sell your property, you will sell your property, but the U.S. government is going to do this. They're going to collect 15% based on the capital gains rate currently right now on the sale price, not the capital gain, on the sale price of your property. So I'll give you an example. If you bought the property for 100 and you sold it for 200, they're going to be withholding $30,000 based on the $200,000 purchase price or sale price at 15%. Now, with the accountant that we're going to be setting you up with, there are several things that can be done to help not tie up those funds for a period of time. And I'm going to let the professionals kind of guide our buyers with that so that their funds are not withheld at the IRS and then have to be reclaimed when they file their taxes with Revenue Canada in the following year. And then the only other tax that you would be responsible for is property taxes, of course. And Canadians aren't taxed differently than Americans are, from the perspective that if an American is purchasing an investment property or a second home, they will be taxed the same way as a Canadian or any other foreign national would for the same property. The only advantage is for an American that is staying in their property as a primary residence, and that's known as their homestead. In Florida, you can get a discount based on using that property as your primary residence in terms of the amount of property taxes that you will be responsible for.
So are there any other legal ramifications that a Canadian investor needs to look up for?
Legal ramifications, I think, will all depend on your case by case basis. And I don't think that there's any legal ramifications in a general sense because, there isn't any limitations to Canadians wanting to purchase down here, which I think is the biggest obstacle a lot of Canadians face is that they don't think that they're able to buy something in Florida for whatever the reason is. So I think that's where the education process starts. Now, in terms of personal asset protection and stuff like that, maybe those are some of the concerns that some people may have in terms of how to best structure the purchase of the property. I always say if you're looking to buy one property, a lot of the banks are not going to finance it in a corporate name and would rather do it in your own personal name and or a trust. And of course, if you wanted to set that up, we have the attorneys available that have worked with our Canadian clients to specifically go through this process, and they're very familiar and they can definitely guide you in the right way.
So let's say I'm interested to buy a property in Orlando. Give me a rundown of what that process looks like from purchasing.
My first question that I'll ask you is: Are you coming down? And if
I'm actually going to Miami, so not Orlando, this weekend.
Oh, that's great! I think I might be there at the same time too. So No, I work between Orlando to Miami, so we cover that whole section for a lot of people that are looking for properties down in the Miami area, Fort Lauderdale area, and then more specifically the
Which is
Orlando.
different, right? Like in Miami, I heard it, you have to put down 50%, or is that not correct either?
It just depends. I think with a lot of new construction, they do stagger a lot of the down payments. But I think on a resale, for a Canadian, I think it's safe to say that if you put down between 20 to 25%, you should be able to secure a loan. Canadians seem to be the most favored out of all of the foreign nationals out there because, we have a lot of the same banks in Canada here in the US or their counterparts or their sister banks. At the same time, um, the credit is very similar. All of that stuff is easy. So my first question would be, are you planning to come down to take a look at the property? If you are, I'll be more than happy to pick you up at the airport, take you on a tour, show you all the properties, and really walk you through the whole process. I like to joke and say, I'd like you to get to know who's who in the zoo. I want you to meet everybody, the accountants, the property managers. I want you to get a certain level of comfort so that you know who's going to be working alongside with you to help manage your property, maintain your property, get you set up with a attorney, get you set up with a bank here, and kind of really go through the whole process. More importantly, I want you to be familiar with the area and I want you to see it the way we see it.
Mhm.
The best way to explain it is you're going to be wowed by all of these beautiful communities that have amazing palm trees and nice swimming pools and so on and so forth. But in every community, there are certain models that work better than others. For example, in a vacation rental market, maybe in a specific community, an 8 bedroom may not work as well as a 9, 11, or a 12 bedroom, or maybe a 4 or 5 bedroom will outperform a larger home. So by having that right partner by your side, you're going to be ensured the success that you need after the purchase is made.
Right.
So we'll
So,
definitely take you on a tour. We'll hold your hand. We'll walk you through the process. We'll be able to get you under contract and or on a waiting list, depending on how busy and what inventory is available. And, we'll get you qualified through the bank and really kind of go through the whole process. Now, ironically, as a result of COVID, we've done a ton of sales
yeah.
by Zoom or FaceTime or a Skype call, which is ironic, but a lot more people are feeling comfortable to do it that way as well too.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about your Azure Resort project. So can you give me like the lowdown on how the deposit structure works? When is it ready? How many homes are there? What kind of rents are we seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go through it step by step. That was a bit of a loaded question, but I think I know where to go from here. So
Yeah.
our community is 2 exits away from Disney. We're talking about
Okay.
a 9-minute drive. The area that we're in is essentially better known or virtually known as the Four Corners because it touches 4 different counties, which is Lake, Osceola, Orange, and Polk County. And this is one of the only areas that's zoned for short-term vacation rental, legal short-term vacation rental. And you're
Okay.
allowed to actually have these properties rented out on a short-term basis. And the reason why I say that is because if a property is zoned for only long-term primary residence, then the shortest lease term that you can do is 7 months. Not the case
Mhm.
here. So we have 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, 5 and 6 bedrooms. The 3 bedrooms are the only units that come with a jacuzzi. The 4, 5, and 6 come with a swimming pool. We have a furniture package from City Furniture, and the furniture package is going to be uniform across the board in the sense of just like visiting a 5-star hotel, all the rooms are identical. And of course, we have a one property management company that's going to manage the whole resort for all the owners so that all the owners get an equal chance to have their property marketed really well, and more importantly, more marketing dollars spent on one community versus if you were to, offer up your house to a property management company to be only one home that they're managing in a specific community.
Correct.
So, with that, it covers both the short term and if you wanted to use it personally, you can. And, if golfing is what you're after, there's tons of golfing around. If you're in for shopping, within about 20 minutes, there's two of the best outlet malls that are open till very late at night with some of the top designer brands. You're in the heart of it all with regards to that. So what we found is, I think more than 50% out of the 126 townhouse units that we have been purchased by Canadians. It's been a
Mhm.
really popular product offering for them. And I think we're approximately 75% sold right now. So there's still, a handful of units that are still available for purchase. So if anybody wants any more information, we can definitely work together to help provide them with all that info.
And what are you seeing as the most popular type of home that the demand is out there
Yeah,
for?
so I think in our case, the 4, 5, and the 6 bedroom seem to be the most popular, and the reason for that, as I mentioned before, is the more you can accommodate more people in your homes, the greater your nightly rental is going to be. In some of our cases, as the property management company has shown us projection models on based on algorithms of different revenue that they've seen at other similar townhouses. In some cases, you're looking at over $70,000 to $90,000 revenue from that could be generated for the rental of these homes on an annual basis. So there's definitely some really key things that is helping our rental market, and of course, the fact that more and more people want to start renting these types of properties is making this type of investment really attractive at this given point in time right now.
And you're saying it's about a 90% occupancy rate?
I think to be fair, 65 to 70% is a very healthy
Mhm.
occupancy level in a normal market. But
Yeah.
if you go and do the research and look at the statistics, as early as March of this year, we were seeing occupancy level of over 86%, all the way up to 99% occupancy. So, we're obviously going through a very unusual time right now with more and more people that are wanting to travel. So, which is
Yeah.
making, Orlando even busier and more attractive as a destination to go and visit. So, I definitely think for people that are looking at Airbnb, there's probably no better time than now to meet
Right.
this.
And when are these homes ready?
So we have our first 2 buildings that are going to be ready in April of this year. And then a lot of the other buildings are going to be following in spring, summer, all the way into end of 2022. And there may be a little bit of a spillover for the last 1 or 2 buildings in the early part of 2023.
And how does the deposit structure work for the stuff that's coming up soon?
Yeah, so it's quite simple. It's $5,000 to reserve the unit, and then we start to go into contract within about 2 weeks. At that point, you'll be putting down 10% deposit, of which the initial $5,000 that you had put down would,
Yeah.
of course, be included towards that 10% deposit. And then, secondly, what you would be doing is about 45 days later, we've worked it out so that it can ease up or break up the deposit structure. We'll collect another 5%, and then another 45 days later, another 5%. So we're looking at a total deposit of 20%, but we're going to try and break it up over the course of the next 3 months.
So that's amazing. It seems like every aspect of this process is completely turnkey, from buying, financing, renting it out, property management. It's nice that your team figures out pretty much all the logistics that need to be taken care of. So really, we're only worrying about that 20% down. So you have price, cash flow, appreciation, this overwhelming demand of people wanting to travel to Florida. So you really have that perfect mix to make that perfect cocktail, it seems.
Well, there's also another ingredient that you're missing, which you don't even take advantage of, and you enjoy it even more once you start to experience it. And that is you're making income in US dollars. So you're literally making another 25% to
Yes.
30% based on the exchange rate. So an interesting thing about buying a property in Florida is also that X factor that you don't get buying, domestically, which is the power of the exchange rate as well too. So, for example, many of the clients that we sold to bought a property in the early part of the 2012 or 13 when the dollar was at par or the Canadian dollar was even stronger than the US dollar. And now, when they're selling their properties, they're selling it at a great appreciation. They've been making this cash flow all along, but they've also taken advantage of, buying real estate essentially on steroids, which is the ability to be able to take advantage of that exchange rate as well too. So that's something to look out for when you're considering buying a property here in Florida.
That's amazing. That's a wealth of knowledge you've just shared with us. Can you give us maybe one last tip of, for any viewer who's looking to invest into Florida?
I think the most important thing when you're looking to make a purchase, especially in an area that you're not familiar with, keep in mind that I think the mistake a lot of people make is they try to buy something in the comfort of what they know. And I
Yeah.
think in many cases, for the same purchase that you would be making in your backyard, you could literally buy two properties for the price of the one that you would do over there. So the key ingredient for success when you're making a purchase like that is to make sure that you have a solid team around you. And a solid team means, contact Sarah and let her be, your guide to walk you through the whole process. And then it'd be really great to be able to kind of be handed off to someone like myself that'll be able to walk you from A to Z and understand what the concerns are for a Canadian, so that you're not getting left behind, you're not running into a legal issue or a tax issue or whatever it is, because we have a team of people around you that will be able to provide that information. Unfortunately, it's easy to jump online and call any random agent to help you out with the purchase, and it's easy to make an offer. You can even do it by yourself if you wanted to. But if you don't know all of the pitfalls that you can avoid, you might very well find yourself stuck in the mud. And that's what we want to try and do, is by reducing the amount of friction and making the process as easy as possible so that we can ensure your success.
Yeah, it seems like you've made the process extremely seamless. So there you have it, guys. I'm glad that we were able to introduce you guys to a unique new investment opportunity that's different from what we've traditionally brought to our network in the past. And this pandemic has really highlighted why Florida is such a lucrative avenue to look into. So if you're interested in learning more about how to invest in Florida, we'll be working closely with Dawood in the upcoming months to get you guys set up. Dawood, thank you so much for your time today. You brought a wealth of knowledge to the table, and we hope to do business with you soon. So thank you so much.
Look forward to seeing you in Florida.
Yeah, hopefully we can connect in Miami, maybe even.
Let's do it. Give me a call. I'll be happy to see you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a great day.